Welcome everybody to this week's The Filmmaker's Life. And it's always so fun when I get to interview a filmmaker that I really know well. And Debbie is one of my clients and is absolutely fabulous. So it makes it double the fun.
Hey, thank you.
So, my name is Joanne Butcher. I am a business coach. I work with filmmakers around everything to do with money, business, and sales and distribution and all the things basically filmmakers don't think about. And I guess I have sort of made it my life's work to try to get this information out to filmmakers because often they are the hardest working, most creative people on the planet, and they're not getting money for their work. So I don't like that. And so we're about getting money into filmmakers' hands. So, Debbie, when we do these interviews, we don't really do a bio because we already put that in the event that we set up. But we're going to actually learn your bio as we go along and as I ask you questions. So, I'm going to start with my favorite question, which is when did you first know that you were a filmmaker?
I was really young. I was about six, I think. I was obsessed with the Muppets, and I'd make my own Muppets and papier-mâché heads and blow up balloons for the sleeves and get my PJs and put them in them, and then get coat hangers and attach them and, entertain people and make my own Muppets. And I very much wanted to be a Muppeteer when I was about six.
I have nenever had that answer before.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But then, of course, you wanted to be a Muppeteer.
There was something so magical about them, and it just totally introduced me to the world of movie magic and the magic of entertainment.
Interesting. So, as that very young child, how did you see that as being something that people made and people produced? Were you conscious of that?
No, I was really, really oblivious to the mechanics of the film industry until about 15 years ago. I grew up in the Middle East, and Hollywood was like
What did
such a,
what was
yeah.
the least?
I grew up on a little island called Bahrain. And so the concept of Hollywood was so distant. I mean, I later moved to England as a 10-year-old, but and even in England, the concept of Hollywood was so unattainable and so distant that I've been living in Vegas for 20 years now, but about 15 years ago, someone said, Hollywood's just down the street, and it was like a light bulb went off. Um, but I mean, Hollywood is a concept, not just a place. But I mean, it was so distant geographically that even the concept of it was completely foreign.
Mm-mm. But something told you to make those Muppet costumes and perform.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I got a video camera in like 1980, 1981, and Star Wars had recently hit, so that had a big influence. And I would kit bash Airfix kits. Airfix is a brand in England of models, and I
Oh,
would kit bash them and make spaceships and
oh
attach
yeah.
them to threads and land them on a piece of foam with talcum powder, so there'd be like a little puff of smoke. And so I was started making these little video vignette thingies around the age of like 9, 10,
With special effects.
with
That
special effects. Yeah. I mean, in fact, it's funny saying about special effects because I think I'd recently seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, and my friend and I, we were like, wow, that's great. Let's replicate blowing up a truck. So we got a little toy of a car, and we poured gasoline on it in the yard, and we set it on fire, and we're filming it, and it's just burning. And we're like, well, that's not really blowing up. Let's pour some more gasoline on it. So, I'm directing it, right? This is at age like 11, 12. And so I tell my friend to go pour more gasoline on it. And as soon as he does that, the fire goes running up the thingy into the can. He throws the can, it lands on a garden shed. The shed goes up in flames. His grandmother comes running out with a bowl of water splashing. So yeah, I was playing with special effects at an early age and burning down sheds.
my God, that's amazing. My first close encounter with special effects, I was working on this big movie what's it called? I can't remember. It's so bad. It's really good that I don't remember it. But anyway, I was working on this movie at the Biltmore. We were working at the Biltmore Hotel in Coral Gables, and they were filming in the parking lot next door, a multi-story parking lot. And we heard this voice go, "Fire in the hole!" And the whole building goes boom. I still don't know what they were doing, but I thought special effects meant you didn't actually blow things up.
That's
But
what I always tell people, like when they're trying to think about how do I achieve this on frame, it's like you don't have to blow up a building, you just have to make it look like you blew up a building. So whether that's a cardboard box painted as a building in a miniature, or a CGI model, or a fragment of the side of something, or whatever, and I think that's an exciting concept. As that people, suddenly the light bulb goes off as a baby filmmaker. It's like, oh wow, I don't have to actually do the thing, I just have to make it look like I did the thing.
yeah, that's great. I love the fact that you backed in through special effects. I think that's awesome. So, after the age of 11 or so, and I guess you made some amends to your friend's grandmother.
I wasn't invited for Christmas dinner.
But we all have to suffer for our art, right?
There you go.
So what happened next? What did you do next?
Oh wow. Well,
Films.
as a teenager, I was a musician, and so I was kind of there at the beginning of the digital music revolution, and I worked as a studio engineer at the age of 15 or 16 in a local recording studio. I kind of dropped out of school early, and I was a studio engineer. And what's interesting about that is, sequencing for digital music was the precursor for NLE editing, for digital editing. So, and then after that, I was always interested in computers, so I got into Photoshop when it switched to color, like really early. And I built my first website in '88. So I've been playing with pixels my whole life. And then skip forward a whole bunch of time, and I ended up in America and in Vegas as a bartender. And I opened up my own bar in Vegas. Um, Go on.
I said, hence the T-shirt.
Oh, hence the t-shirt. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So when we owned a bar, we couldn't really afford to pay someone for our marketing. So I would do the food photography and the cocktails, and then I would do the ads for TV and kind of put that together, and that kind of rekindled my love of photography and videography. And so I started making some short films, and then a friend of mine said, "Hey, you should go to film school." So I went to a local film school. I won 4 Emmys while I was in film school, and that just launched my career. And then I dropped out of film school. I've dropped out of college twice and school once. I guess when they say I didn't learn, they really mean it.
No, no, no. Have a resistance to authority. That's what I.
Um,
Oh my God!
and
Hold on.
exacerbate what was already a dangerous situation.
And Collins, we noted before NBC News got a hold of some of
How embarrassing! My TV went off.
Now we know what's behind the curtain.
Now we know. It's the TV. Sorry about that. So okay. So how did you go about winning Emmys while you were in film school? Because that sounds like a very unusual thing.
Yeah, I didn't even know it was an option. So basically, screenwriting 101, the first assignment was boy meets girl, 4 pages, boy meets girl. That's the entirety of the brief. So everyone was writing like, boy meets girl at the train station, boy meets girl at the grocery store. I decided to do something 10,000 years in the future in zero G, between a robot boy who finds a frozen girl in space. So it was really ambitious, and it caught the imagination of the class. And then the following semester, in a video production class, we had the opportunity to make a short film. And so I chose the script from the semester before, and I made the short. I made it for $300. And then the school said, "This is spectacular. We want to enter it into the Emmys for you." And I was like, wow, okay. And much to my shock and awe, it won. Well, first of all, it was nominated, and it got 4 nominations, and then it won. It won Best Director, Best Short, Best Screenplay, and Best Editing in 2016
And
for $300.
that film is so amazing, and
Oh,
there's no way anybody would ever think that it was made for $300. I don't know if I have a link to that film, but would you be able to share that with us? I know I'm asking you
yeah.
to and stuff, but I would love for everybody to see it. It's really a spectacular film. It's
Thanks. Well, it was, I mean, it's aged a little now, it was 2016, and I was in film school and I was learning, but it's 9 minutes, and it's pretty neat. So I'm happy with it. But it gave me a terrible ego, because I won that, and I was in film school, and I was like, I know everything. I'm gonna drop out. Doors of Hollywood are gonna open. And that didn't happen. And so I spent the next.
You're the first filmmaker to have had that experience, right? I mean, to have the experience of like, oh, okay, I'm ready for Hollywood now. And what did you actually do? What did you do to try to make it in Tinseltown?
Well, I thought, after I thought the Emmys would give me some juice, but apparently not. I think industry-wise, people don't really care that much about Emmys. I mean, they're more impressive to the public than the industry. But also, they were in the student category, and as we all know, film is an incredibly competitive field. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm ready to make a feature, and I wasn't ready to make a feature. This is back in like 2016. So I started putting together my feature, and I couldn't raise the money. And so I got very, very sad after working on that project for a couple of years. And I basically took a year off and got fed up with film and said, to hell with it, this isn't for me. And I tried my hand at financial services, which I was terrible at, because
I can't imagine you doing financial service.
I can barely count. So,
But I know the impetus, because I made the same decision at some point in my life. I was like, to hell with film, I've got to get a real job. And so I became a fundraiser, because it's something I already knew how to do, and I started doing capital campaigns, and I was really good at it, which is a little bit of a different problem. I was really good at it, and so I got caught in that for a while until I was so ill I couldn't function anymore. But at least you picked something that you sucked at.
yeah, I sucked really bad at it. I lost a lot of money, and so I did that for a year, and I was like, I had no money, so the only thing I really knew how to do was like edit and stuff. So I started doing that professionally and made a lot of money doing that. And then my producer, who was packaging the movie that I was trying to make with me, said, well, why don't we do a proof of concept short, and take some of the stuff that we've already shot, in pre-production for the special effects and stuff, and just film short. And so we did, and that ended up being Dark Lights, my vampire short that was released in January last year, and has now had 57 festival honors, and is available on Tubi.com as part of an anthology series called The United States of Horror, which is narrated by Pinhead from Hellraiser. And it got so much heat, I guess, last year, that it led to the opportunities for me to make my first feature film.
So, with the feature film that you worked on and
Yeah.
ended up being sad and a financial services person, what do you think didn't work in that experience?
Well, quite a lot of things. Primarily, I was relying on other people to raise the money. Okay, I thought, I'm a shit hot 4 Emmy director. I've got a cool idea. I know how to do this. Someone else raise the money, and I'll deliver the goods. And as you and I and Lexi know, that's not the reality. The reality is when you're an up and coming filmmaker, and making your first feature, or getting into the biz, so to speak. You're the one that's got to pull the strings. You're the one that's got to drive the bus. You're the one that's got to make it happen. People aren't investing in the movie, they're investing in you. So yeah, so the fact that I even paid a company $4,000 to raise the money. I sold my car and paid a company $4,000 to raise the money. I'm not going to mention who they are because we all know who they are. But
No,
what's that?
I think we should know. I
I
don't know.
should, well, they're a well-known company in Hollywood. They provide many services, and they're a well-known company in Hollywood, and people often
So I
talk
can,
about them. Huh?
you'll have to tell me offline so I can make
Yeah, I'll
sure.
tell you offline because I don't want to spread bad vibes. I mean, but they, they went to Berlin and they went to Cannes on my dime, and they were like, oh yeah, no one's interested. And I'm like, did you even pitch it? Like, how do I know? But the fact is, it's no one's responsibility to raise the money for your movie, but you. If you're the one that says, I've got an idea, I'm going to make this happen, then you're the one that's got to, pick up the phone, hit the streets, make the calls, make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that, as you know, I believe that. But I know, for example, when I have been to AFM, there are literally thousands of filmmakers there who are there with their script, or with their idea, and they have been absolutely convinced that they're supposed to do this, that they're supposed to go invest thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, paying to go to AFM, paying for somewhere to stay,
Yeah.
paying for food, paying whatever, and that there are going to be people there who are going to raise money to make their
No,
films.
that you're better off, reestablishing contacts with old friends and reestablishing friendships and building those connections from people from your past, because that's who's gonna fund your movie. Um, so, but yeah, I went, I've experienced both sides of it. I've experienced being a up and coming filmmaker with a lot to offer, saying, help me, and no help coming. And I've experienced like, okay, I'm a little bit more seasoned now, and I'm going to do this myself and do it myself.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so when you decided to do it yourself, then how did you do it?
Well, it's interesting. Even Tiger Woods has a coach. So I'm a big fan of coaches. And, we met on Clubhouse, and Clubhouse was an amazing resource for me last year. I met, I've only been on Clubhouse like a year-ish. And yeah, I met so many fantastic people, including yourself, on Clubhouse. And I really felt like it was, especially at that time when people weren't really working and during the shutdown and stuff, it was a complete main line into Hollywood and to industry people. And I met my casting director, my manager, my lawyer, you, my assistant director, like so many people. And, we had a chat, and you said, hey, I help people raise their money. And I was very, very skeptical because of my experiences in the past. I paid someone a chunk of money in the past to raise money. But this was different. I wasn't paying you to raise the money. I was paying you to teach me how to raise the money. But nonetheless, I was still very, very skeptical. For me, it was a chunk of change. And I think the first investment money that I got, I gave all to you. So I went from having a tiny piece of money to no money again. And yeah, I'm telling the world I'm making this movie, and all I really have is you in my corner. And so I'm very skeptical of coaches, because the movie industry, just like the music industry, is incredibly predatory, because there are so many hopes and dreams of people involved in it that it's easy for predators to be predatory. So it invites all kinds of shenanigans and nonsense, right? It's just in general, and this isn't just with coaching. This is with everything: distribution, management, bullshit festivals, like even people on the street in Hollywood, saying they'll take your headshot and for $70 and take a photo with an iPhone, and all these horror stories I've heard. It's just predatory. It's like a pixie dust of predatory behavior throughout the industry. So now that I've been, working as a freelance editor and as a director for some like 15 years ish, right? I've directed over 100 commercials, TV commercials and stuff. And I've been through the ringer, and I feel like I've experienced every kind of predatory behavior. I feel like at one point or another in the last 15 years, I've experienced so many different kinds of bullshit that also I've lived in Vegas 20 years. So my bullshit meter is through the roof. right? So I naturally come into situations a little skeptical, a lot skeptical. So I was really skeptical of you to begin with, but I got a good vibe from you. I can usually read people very well because of all my experiences. And you were the key to helping me raise the money, to be honest, for a couple of reasons. One, you help retune my language from an artist to what a potential investor would want to hear. You gave me a lot of solid facts and information and good information. But also, I think this is something you don't get enough credit for. You were also just a cheerleader. Like on my darkest days when I'd had 100 no's, like 11 people funded my movie, but I pitched it to like 200, okay? And those 200 people, sometimes I would be like, can I send you something? A few days later, yeah, okay. I send it to them. A few days later, have you read it yet? No, not yet. A few weeks later, have you read it yet? No, but I'm coming to Vegas next week. They come to Vegas, I'd have dinner with them. Then they go back to buttfuck wherever, and I'd be like, hey, what? And they're like, well, give me some time. And then they come back to Vegas another month later with their wife, and I'd have dinner with them. And then a few weeks later, I'd be like, what do you think? And they'd be like, no. And I'd be like, what the and so you go through this dance with hundreds of people at different levels of it. So some days I would literally be, rocking 3 days of 6, 8 no's, 10 no's a day. And it was depressing. And it was frightening because I had told Hollywood I'm going to do this. I told my friends I was going to do this. I told Vegas I've got a big mouth and I'm pretty well connected. So I told a lot of people. And while there's only this much in the account and the shoot date is looming, I'm like, what the hell? So on those darkest days, it was you that said to me, I have complete confidence in you. You're going to do this. You're going to make it happen. And, paid or not paid, everyone needs a cheerleader. And so you gave me the confidence, you gave me the language, you gave me some skills and some technical stuff, some facts and stuff. But you're also just, one hell of an emotional support. And I thank you for that. And I don't think you get enough credit for that. So, yeah, it's true. So, but the irony of raising money is it gets easier as it goes on. And let me share this story. So I was in post-production on my movie, like fresh post-production, like I think we just wrapped the movie like a month or so. And one of my friends said, oh, you're making a movie. I just put 100,000 into a movie. I'm like, where the hell were you 6 months ago? And they're like, oh, you need money? I was like, yeah. And they're like, how's 20 grand? I was like, okay. And it just highlights like once you have X amount, more comes in. And the crazy thing is, my next movie that I'm shooting that we start in like 3 or 4 weeks, I haven't pitched it to anyone yet, and I've already had people throw me 20 grand.
Well, I thank you so much for everything that you said. And I think that one of the things about fundraising, you were saying, I don't get enough credit, but one of the things about fundraising is that it's kind of a requirement to have a very positive mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, at the same time, being told no, 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 So there's this work that we have to do to be able to come back to that positive mindset and go and ask again.
You have to be resilient. Someone once said to me, it's like running through it, like running full steam at a brick wall, running through it, and you hit it and you bust through it and the bricks fall on you and stuff. You get up and you dust yourself off and then you start running towards the next brick wall. And it's literally like that.
Yes, and I know that we also, well, I want to talk about self-care later, but there was one moment also I remember in the process where we were talking one day and I was like, wait, you were a bartender? And you were like, yeah, I have all these bartender friends. And I'm like, really? And you started to reach out to all your bartender friends. And I think you landed some of them, right?
Yeah, like 3 or 4. Yeah, 3 or 4 out of the 11 were bartending related. Well, 3 were bartenders and 1 was a friend of theirs. So, but it's not just the bartending thing. It's the fact that they were all people from my past. In fact, of the 11 investors, only 1 of them did I not have a previous relationship with.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
So,
and that's people say it's your family and friends, and no shit, it's your family and friends. And I don't have any family, but I know a lot of people, and it was all people who, like I said earlier, like they invest in you, not the project. It's because they believe in you.
yes. And so those 11 people, so 10 of them were people that you already knew, that you already had relationships with. And if you ask them today why they invested in the project, what would they say?
Because they believe in me. Because they believe in me. They think I'm incredible.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And do they want their money back?
Of course. Who doesn't want their money back?
But the thing is that I think a lot of filmmakers I meet assume they don't.
Why would
So
they assume that?
friends, they're people who believe in you, and they want their money back. I think all of those things are
Well, it's really important to think of it in these terms. In order for your movie to be considered technically quote unquote successful, it needs to make 3 times its negative cost. So if it made 100,000, you need to make $300,000. That way, everyone gets paid and everyone gets double their money, ish, right? Um, and the importance of that is if you make double your money for everyone who invested in you, they're going to be falling over themselves to give you even more money for the next one. And bingo, you got a career. And that's the way you got to think about it. It's the movie business, and business is, half of that.
yeah. And I think that that first feature is, to me, that's always the mountain to climb. And
Oh yeah, yeah. I couldn't have named my movie. And my movie's called Move Me No Mountain. I'm wearing the merch. I'm drinking the coffee cup with the um and it's so funny because I couldn't have named it better. It was really a metaphor. Like the whole process was this mountain. And the interesting thing about being on the other side of that mountain is I feel that of course I've grown as an artist through the technical process, but as a person I've grown. It's hard to explain to my friends, but I feel like my soul is physically larger than my body almost. It's like I feel more powerful. I feel empowered. I you know, coming from that, being on the other side of that experience, because at the beginning it just seems impossible. You're looking up at this mountain, it's just like, how the hell is this going to happen? And now that it's happened, now I'm like, well, we've done it once, we can do it again.
right,
No
right.
problem.
And what's your can you tell us a bit about Move Me No Mountain? And then I want to hear
Sure.
one that's coming up.
Sure, and we're in development for the one after that as well, which
Great.
yeah. We're lined up through 2026, I think. So bless you, Lexi. So we are, let's see, Move Me to Mountain. It's a drama shot as a thriller. It's about a real estate agent in Las Vegas who can't handle the guilt of her daughter's death, so she decides to voluntarily punish herself by becoming homeless on the streets of Las Vegas. So yeah, it's it's funny, the budget is kind of flexy because technically it was. Should we talk about the numbers? Do you want to hear the numbers? Is that interesting for people?
Oh, it's very interesting for people. Yeah,
Cool, cool,
yeah.
cool. Okay, so so just before I say the numbers, something really interesting that you taught me was that you don't need all the money to start, which was a really, really important, nugget or realization or epitome. So we made the movie, I think it was $65,000 for production, and then $45,000 for post. So it's $110,000 if my math is correct. But we're getting 30 to 40,000 for the soundtrack deal for marketing. So technically that makes it 150,000. And then I put in my own equipment, which is valued at about 50 grand. So even though we didn't raise that or didn't need that, technically, if you were, being pedantic, you could say that's part of the budget. So technically it's a $200,000 movie, but it was 110, but it was made for 65.
It's definitely at least a $200,000 movie. And when you're talking to anybody in the industry, that's the number you're going to use.
Well, actually, the number I use inside of the industry is we made it for less than $1 million.
Okay, that's good too. That's good too. But thanks for sharing those numbers. It's very rare for anybody to share their numbers. And you know what
But
I
I
see.
don't understand that. I don't understand that. People are very cagey with numbers, especially documentaries. People are very, very cagey with numbers. And I don't get that. I've always been a very open and sharing person, and hey, Anthony said, and I've always been very sharing with information and knowledge, and sharing is caring, I guess. And I've always been very open, and I kind of expect other people. I mean, I know people aren't always open, but I don't always understand why they're not, because
I'll tell you my theory is
yeah,
um, a lot of times filmmakers, when they're making this is technically a micro budget movie, they're actually ashamed of the numbers. So instead of being like, "Wow, I raised $65,000," they're like, "I only was able to raise," right? So they're seeing it from the wrong perspective, and they're seeing it as a failure instead of a victory, and that's a very common thing that I see.
it's interesting you talk about perspectives. A friend of mine is trying to raise money for a movie, and they made a feature for $7,000. Okay, and it's not fantastic. Okay, I'm being kind, but they made a movie for $7,000, and they said to me, I don't understand, because I keep telling people, look what I made, look how much I accomplished with so little. Imagine what I could do with more. And I said, but imagine that from the other side of the perspective, the other side of the table, because it's what you got to do when you put your producer hat on, right? If a kid came to you and said, hey, look at these mud pies that I baked. Imagine what I could do with a shit ton of money. Would you give them the keys to a restaurant?
Right, right. That's right. That's nice. But I think also that I see in people in the industry when I talk about micro budget films, they really don't even know what I'm talking about. Um, the most extreme example is this couple that started a famous film festival that shall not be named, and they said to me, "But how can you make a film for less than $5 million?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I had a similar experience in Hollywood about 10 years ago, I think. I had a very there was someone who was very, very kind to take a meeting with me at Three Arts, and they schooled me a little, and they told me that the least you can make a movie for, and this is 10 years ago, the least you can make anything decent for is 300,000.
Uh-huh. Right. Yep. 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 And that's fine. They are not as creative as you are, is what I would say.
Well, I mean, it's not easy. It's not easy. There's two ways to fix any problem in movie making. You can either spray it with the money hose, or you can get crafty. That's it, right? And how much you want to spray it with money hose really depends how deep your pockets are, and how crafty you want to get really depends on how smart, talented, resourceful you are.
Absolutely. That's very well said. So, where is the film at now? I know it's in late post production.
Yeah, yeah, it's very exciting. We have a test screening in 2 weeks' time at the Nevada Women's Film Festival that's been sold out for 6 weeks. I'm being recognized as the Nevada Women Filmmaker of the Year, which is very humbling, and just very humbled. So we're going to do a test screening there for like a 250 person sold out audience. Selling something out in Vegas 6 weeks beforehand is a big deal, because no one in Vegas knows what they're doing until like an hour before, right? Because there's so much to do here. So I'm extremely proud of that, but at the same time, I recognize I got a hometown advantage, and I've got a good reputation in this town. So,
You
but
up that hometown advantage.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, 1000%. It's a Vegas-centric movie, and I've got goodwill in this town, so it's to be expected. But nonetheless, I'm very, very excited about the event. So that'll be a test screening, and where the movie is, and that's like hold on, what day is it today? Thursday. That's in 15 days. So where the movie is technically right now is it's mostly done. I mean, the final cut, it's picture locked. 75% of color is done. I'm working furiously with sync license negotiations with the record companies and publishing companies and all that kind of thing. Simultaneously working with two different composers for the music, because the movie intercuts between the present and the past. And to make a distinction, I went with an atonal electronic soundtrack for the present, but an orchestral, organic, melodic soundtrack for the past. So I'm working with two different composers, which is a challenge in itself, because you have to learn their love language and how to communicate musically with two very different artists. And also I'm working furiously at this stage with the Foley artists in the final stages of that. So I'm trying to pull in these last 15 days the Foley, the sync licenses, the composers, and the color all together, and a little bit stressful.
How did your underwater shot come out in the end?
Oh, amazing. Yeah. I was thinking about that the other day, because we had to do a stunt shot of a stunt woman doing a 10-foot belly flop into an 18-foot deep pool. And we had a scuba team underwater to film it. And we destroyed a camera the first time we did it. And it started raining as well that day. And just everything was going wrong. And one of our associate producers called me up in the middle of this while I'm standing in a freezing cold pool in the rain with a drowned camera. And she's like, I quit the project. And I'm like, what is going on today? So a few weeks later, we went back and we did the shot, and it ended up iconic. But what's really interesting is, so we're filming it from beneath, and the girl does this belly flop, right? And from 10 feet above, looking down at the water, it's all rippling and stuff, so she can't see where the camera is. So each time she would like miss the frame, and it's a 10-foot belly flop, like straight up, yeah? So we could only do it X amount of times. And then when she would get the frame, the force of the water would push the camera away. So we had to weight the camera on the bottom of the pool and lock it off. And that was technically hard because it's 18 foot deep, right? So, you send your scuba divers down there, but then you've got to wait for them to come back up before you can communicate. Then they got to go back down. So it's a whole, and I'm shouting out to the stunt coordinator on the cliff and everything. But we got it on the 6th try, and it is iconic. It's a beautiful shot, and it looks really special.
Wow, you worked hard for that shot. So
Yeah, there wasn't a shot that came easy, I'll be honest. It was all very difficult.
well, the subject matter of the film really is homelessness, and so I know that that's something that's a very hard thing to be working in that particular arena, I think. So what's the
Yeah.
film going to be?
What's my what, sorry?
Next film, is it going to be?
Oh, okay, yeah. So we start production. We've been in pre-production for like 2, 3, 4 months, I think, ish. It's all gone so fast. The next movie that I'm working on that we start in a couple of weeks is called Shaken and Stirred. It's a documentary about the history of flair bartending. And I'm very excited. Basically, I have a past history in bartending, and some friends that have stayed in that industry and who are legends in that industry a few months ago reached out to me and said, hey, we want to interview you for your contributions to the world of bartending, and also we're curious about your new career in film. And we got chatting, and we were like, hey guys, we're perfectly situated to, no one else could make this movie. But here's two really interesting things. One, there's never been a documentary about flair bartending. Amazing. And two, and this is what sold the deal for me, and this is where my producer hat comes on and the whole financial side of it comes together, right? We have 15,000 emails of flair bartenders.
Oh.
Right, think about that. So for example, if you walk something into Netflix and you say, we have 15,000 emails of your target demographic for this product, okay? They have an algorithm where they can just literally put a price on that. They're like, okay, 15,000 people, maybe 40% aren't members. If they convert them to members, then they'll probably 80% chance they'll stay a member for 6 years, and that will represent this dollar amount. And they can literally put a number on that. And the fact that, one of the hardest things for any filmmaker is connecting with their audience or finding their audience, right? And so to go into a project where we already have 15,000 of like our specific target audience, right? That is so powerful. That is such a financial power position to be in, that I was like, this is a no-brainer. And it's funny because they always said I'd never do a documentary, but as Kubrick said, your movies pick you, right? And so this movie just picked me as, so we're very excited about it. We're doing interviews with 15 of the most influential flair bartenders of all time around the world, including John Bandy, who trained Tom Cruise for Cocktail. And then we're going to intercut and see them flipping bottles and stuff. And then we're going to intercut that with 3 flair bartenders in Vegas who are prepping for a big competition in Florida. And we're going to follow them out to the competition in Florida. So we're going to see the most influential, some great flair, and also the reality of competing. And so, yeah, Shaken and Stirred comes out next year.
Wow, I love it. And those 15,000 emails are not just 15,000 buyers of a, one copy. They're the influencers who have their own audiences. That's amazing.
I mean, it's massive. It's massive. It's, for example, we started the marketing on Move Me No Mountain even before we started shooting. We recognized that some filmmakers make a movie and then they create an Instagram account, and that was the wrong way to go. We started all that ahead of time. And we've been collecting emails of people. And when I say collecting emails, I mean, people have been, putting in their email saying, yes, I want to know about this movie. Okay. It's not like we go through our business cards and type them in, right? They're voluntarily given to us. And in the 10 months that we've been since production started, or 8 months or whatever, we've only collected like something like 600 emails of people who have said, I want to see this movie. And yet I'm coming into this project at point zero with 15,000 of our target demographic. It's night and day.
Right. That's really, those are great numbers to share. Those are great numbers. So, and then what's the third movie?
So the third movie I'm shooting, it's a thriller that we're developing. It's called My Own Private Nazi. It's set in Utah in 1981, and we hope to go into production in 2024.
What's that log line?
Oh, I'm not sure. I haven't really put together the log line, but essentially the pitch is it's about a mild-mannered journalist who works at a regional newspaper in Utah in the early 80s, and he's doing a piece on hunting down aging war criminals, Nazi war criminals hiding in America. In his personal life, his daughter was kidnapped, raped, and killed a couple of years ago, and the person that they think that did it got off on a technicality. So he kidnaps this person, locks him up in his basement to try and get him to talk, but he's not really, he's a journalist, he's not a torturer. Meanwhile, there's a break in the case at work, and he finds out that there is this old war criminal Nazi, an 80-year-old living a couple towns away, who used to be called the listener because he would get people to talk. So he goes to the Nazi and says, I'm about to out you nationally unless you come and help me get this fucker in my basement to talk. And the twist is the guy in the basement is innocent. It's called My Own Private Nazi.
Lovely.
And we're hoping for a much more significant budget for that. Like, we're hoping to crack into the 2 million sphere, but it's early days yet.
Nice. But it's great that you can talk about it and you have it down. I just want to recommend a movie to you that I saw recently on the Criterion Channel called Obsession, and it was made in the 50s, I think.
Okay.
British movie, and I just loved it so much. But it involves somebody kidnapping somebody and locking them up, and it's a whole thing about that particular story. And I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I had never heard of it, but it was by a very well-known director, who I can't remember now.
I'll check it out.
Edward Dmytryk. But fantastic about locking somebody up. And
well, we're really hoping that we believe Move Me No Mountain will absolutely get critical acclaim. We're pretty confident that we have everything in place to make our money back for our investors within 2 years. But we think with Shaken and Stirred, it's going to be a slam dunk on the financial side. We're making it for 100,000. We believe someone's just going to come in and snap it up like a Hulu or a Netflix for like $500,000 and just be a done deal. And so with the combination of critical acclaim on one and financial massive success on the next, the combination of those two things hopefully will bring them all together for the third one, and it will take us into that next bracket and category. And that's kind of the trajectory of what we're planning for the next 5 years. Because I've got a whole little team now.
Which you developed on this film, which is fantastic.
Right. You know, when I started this movie, all I had was my dog and my producer. But now I have a full-time assistant and I have a manager in LA. So I've got like, you know, and plus all the other stuff that comes with the movie, you know, the supporters and all that good stuff. So,
Yeah.
so it feels good to have a team.
And the other thing that I'm hearing from you is really like what you were saying about learning how to not so much talk like an artist, but talk like an entrepreneur, or but I'm really hearing that from you, and this sort of the way that you understand the flair bartending film is just fantastic to hear, and just
Well,
realize.
I've been through the ringer. I mean, it's been, you know, it's trial by fire. I mean, everyone says you got to make that first movie to prove that you're a filmmaker kind of thing, right? And it is, it's trial by fire, because once you do that, um, it's, you know, for years I was calling myself a film director, but I'd only directed 100 TV commercials and 9 shorts, right? And in my mind, I'm a film director, but I never directed a feature film. And I think there's a massive distinction between people that have made a feature film and people that have not, because it's a whole different beast. I mean, it's mentally, physically taxing and exhausting. It's so challenging, and once you've done that, it just puts you, just even in the minds of others, it puts you in a different hemisphere. And in terms of experience, it just puts you in different hemispheres.
Well, thank you so much. I want to open it up to questions. Oh, I forgot. I had this one question. I don't ever ask this question, but I think you have a really good self-care practice. And I don't know if I'm making that up, but if you do, I wonder if you could share a little bit about what your self-care practices looks like.
I cry in a fetus position at the bottom of my shower.
Yep. Know that.
No, but in all honesty, call me old-fashioned, but I like drugs and alcohol. No, I'm kidding again. But I'm not, but I am. No, self-care, I honestly, I don't do enough self-care. Probably, if I ask my friends. I have a dog, and dogs are important for sanity. You know, one thing that I try to do, and it sounds so left field, but it's important, is like anytime I walk my dog, I don't take my phone, because that time is mine and hers, right? But also I think it's important to spend time outside of the industry. You know, spend time doing something completely unrelated to get your head out of it. Because I spent so much time working. I mean, Monday I spent 15 hours in front of the computer. Tuesday I spent 19 hours in front of the computer. Right, it was bananas, yeah. A couple weeks ago, I was the lead editor for a $60 million production, a festival called EDC. And I worked 3 13-and-a-half-hour days, took a day to sleep, and then I worked, and this is true, this is like unbelievable. I worked a 29-and-a-half-hour day from 10 in the morning till 2:30 in the afternoon. I get paid a phenomenal amount, so I'm happy to do it. And it's a big thing. It's a $60 million production. It's a big thing, and I had to do that. Like, I had to deliver the goods, and someone else fucked up. That meant, you know, my workload got crazy. But you know, with these kinds of stressful deadlines and hours and expectations and all of that, I think it's so important to spend time out of the industry and get out of it. Like, I joined a softball team recently, or I play wiffle ball, or you know, do something completely unrelated with people that aren't in it. And I think that really helps in resetting your drive and your energy and your mindset.
Nice. I just think you just have such a great mindset. I really appreciate it. So let's open it up to questions. Who would like to ask Deborah a question? I like camera. Raise your hand. Raise your digital hand or your physical hand. Can I see everybody?
Raise your hand.
Oh, Marcy. Marcy and then Kay. And then Rolf. Okay, Marcy. Are you unmuted? Go ahead.
Hi, Deborah. Thank you so much. You're such an inspiration. I appreciate
Thank you. Thank you,
you
Marcy.
sharing your information. One question I had was, you talked about the challenges of making a film. What would you say is the difference between making a short, the challenges of making a feature that were not in the short?
Right. Well, I mean, first off the bat, I mean, obviously the money, right?
Right.
My last short that I made for like $2,000, this is 100 times more. Right, so immediately there's that. So there's all the pressure, technicalities, difficulties, challenges, etc., responsibilities, obligations, all associated with the money, right?
Mhm.
But if you take that off the table, the single biggest difference between making a short and making a feature is probably comes down to stamina. Because on a short, you're probably shooting a couple days, right? And maybe those days are spread out because it's a short and you're getting people when you can or whatever. So it's kind of like, it's not a physical, beast. But when you make a feature, by the time I got to production, I was already exhausted. I was exhausted from pre-production. Someone interviewed me on the first day and I saw the video recently. They're like, how do you feel? I'm like, exhausted. And it was the first day. So you already get to the first day exhausted. And then in our case, we had 21 production days, okay? And I was the first to wake up and the last to get to sleep every day. So I would wake up at 5 a.m. and I would go physically and mentally till 12:30. And then do the same again for 21 days in a row. I think we did 6 days on, 1 day off, 6 days on, 1 day off, 6 days on. So just physically demanding, I'm no spring chicken. I'm going to be 51 years old this year and I'm in fairly good shape, but still, physically it whooped my butt and mentally it whooped my mind. After the movie, I was literally in bed for a month, just sleeping it off. Like literally, I couldn't move. And it was like I'd been hit by a truck. And I think with the next movie, it's a documentary. So it's more like shooting a short where you shoot a bit here, shoot a bit there, shoot, over a year as opposed to a narrative. But the next time I get to a narrative, I will definitely put more time aside for the months leading up to get physically fitter so that I'm like physically optimal. Because I think that's the biggest difference, that it's just whoops your ass.
Thank you.
Well,
Okay.
great question.
Thanks so much, Marcy. Who did I say next? Kay.
Hi, Debbie. Thanks so much. This has just been an amazing talk, and I just love. I could listen to you all day.
Oh, thanks.
So it sounds like you're doing. You're based in Las Vegas, and a lot of the work's happening there. But it seems like you're also working with people remotely. I was curious, are you, with your composers, are they both in Las Vegas? And how are you kind of, what's the percentage of people you can work with directly versus your network outside of, that's more, virtually based?
Right. Well, with production, obviously everything's local, but with administration, most of it's remote. Like my sound designer is in Chicago. My composers happen to be in Vegas, but it wouldn't make a difference if they weren't. My manager is LA. My lawyer is LA. My casting director was East Coast. So a lot of the, above the line, or what I call administrative, can be kind of scattered. But production obviously is local. And then for my freelance, I do a lot of remote stuff for people in LA. I work as a commercial editor, and recently have, worked with Slash from Guns N' Roses, Will Smith this year, Pre-Slap. And last year Lizzo and Billie Eilish, but all these people I work with remote.
And I guess a quick follow-up with the manager part, is that both for the narrative work that you're doing in your own projects and the kind of commercial work you're doing, or are those kind
everything? And I'm just kind of smiling because the other day I called up my manager, and my manager said, Debbie, let me share with you a dream I had the other day. And I'm like, go on. It's like, we were in this big fancy office in LA, and we're waiting to speak to someone about moving a mountain, and on the radio came on something about your movie, and I just feel like it's such a positive vibe. And I'm like, so let me get this right. I'm paying you 10% for you to tell me your dreams instead of achieving mine. So, but my manager represents me for everything that I do, and for all my film work. And because I'm considered an up-and-coming director, I guess I fall into that category of representation where I'm an artist in development, where, any manager or agent that I get specifically now kind of takes me on board with the understanding that they have to invest some time over years to really see, that payoff for them. Because it's not like, they're picking up a Tarantino or a Spielberg. They're getting Deborah Richards at the beginning of her career. So I'm an artist in development technically, but yeah, they represent me on everything, whether it be merchandising, this kind of nonsense, or whether it be public speaking or public engagements or my film work or anything that I'm a hired gun for.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kay. And I think Rolf was next, and then Siva Kumar.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I was just reminded of you were talking about your agent saying his dreams, and that reminded me of Extras with Ricky Gervais and Steve Merchant.
I love that show.
Yeah.
I love that show, and it's so true. It's so, what that show really highlights is that everyone in the industry, we all as artists have this tendency to put people who are further along their career path than ourselves on a pedestal.
Yeah.
And we all have this tendency to look up to them and like, oh my gosh, I need their help, or I want to be recognized by them, or I want acknowledgement by them, or I want, to get where they are. And shows like Extras kind of highlight how we're all just people trying our best everywhere,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
And here's a universal truth, right? Everybody in the world wants the same thing. And that thing is the best possible experience of life. Now that means different things to different people, but it just emphasizes how we're all just, emotional blobs of, wants and dreams and hopes and needs. And we're all just people. And even the people who are further ahead or quote unquote bigger than us or whatever, have their good days, have their bad days, can be like idiots, can be generous, can be anything that we can be. And I love shows like Extras because it highlights that.
Definitely. So my question is kind of a bit of fun, and I don't know if it already got asked, but what's your favorite film of all time?
Good question. Probably, and it has been for a long time, probably There Will Be Blood by P.T. Anderson. It's just wicked. It's just so, and of course Apocalypse Now, which awesome. both I just watched and I'm like, how the hell did they do that?
Yeah, for sure, especially Apocalypse Now. I ask that question every single time I see it. I still can't figure it out.
I was watching a documentary on it last night, funnily enough, and I've seen many documentaries on like YouTube documentaries on, and I've seen Hearts of Darkness, of course, and it's just bananas how that.
Yeah, even after watching the documentary, this is how we made it, and I still come away thinking I still don't understand how that got made.
And it's so interesting because you realize that through that process, like up until the last minute, Francis Ford Coppola is like constantly wondering like, how the F is this gonna happen? How is this gonna even like you have no idea. And the same can be said about I think probably all films, like up until it's done, you're still questioning like, how is this gonna get done? Like you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, but you're still like, until it's done, it's a very strange experience.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Great. Siva Kumar.
Hi, thanks, Debbie. Actually, I love the quote, if the guilt does not kill you, the street will. I like that. Yeah. So actually, you said you are the first person wake up and the last person go to the bed, right? And during shoot. Can you let me know only one thing? What motivates?
My dog's barking. I can't hear you. Cookie, shush. Sorry. Could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. I think like the way you work, like you were the first person, get up in the morning, go to the shoot, and last person, right?
Yeah.
So tell the one thing, what motivates you when you're down? Like, what drives you to keep achieve your goal actually? So how do you motivate yourself?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question because one thing that helped me keep going during the pre-production was actually Joanne was actually her words of encouragement and stuff. But I think a lot of us are fueled by a fear of failure, and sometimes we're held back by a fear of success. But you know, in my case, speaking personally, I'm often like, well, I got to keep going because I don't want people to think that I failed or I fucked up. I don't want to deal with that embarrassment, or, you know, which is a strange thing, but it's a fear of failure. I mean, like, you know, why do you go to work in the morning? Because you're scared of not having food and having a place to live, right? It's a fear of that kind of failure. And so it kind of, you know, it's the same thing with making a movie, but on a much bigger scale. You're like, I have to make this happen because, and I tend to do this to myself, right? I recognize this about myself. So I tell people what I'm going to do before I do it so that I have to live up to it. It's like, I think I told my friends when I was a teenager that I got a tattoo before I got a tattoo, so that I would get a tattoo because I didn't want to be embarrassed when they asked to look at it. So, you know, and I bought a DVD player before I ever had a DVD because I knew that I would, you know, I'd have to go out and get DVDs. So I kind of like put the horse before, I mean, the cart before the horse sometimes, just to motivate myself to go out and get a horse.
Great. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Where are you calling in from? Shiva Kumar, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Jen. I'm calling from San Francisco, California.
Okay, I thought maybe you were from far, far away, and I was impressed. San Francisco, okay, you know. Thanks for joining us. So Debbie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I don't know if you can share your film with us, the one that we were talking about, your first one, the Emmy.
Oh, Boy Meets Girl. Oh, you meant like put a link up on the chat type thing?
Yeah, if you have a minute, and
Could I maybe, because I got to dig it out, and could I put the link? Could I put it on the comments? Maybe put a link on the comments when this. Yeah,
oh,
I can do that, right?
that's even better. Yeah, thank you,
Cool.
thank you. It's
Yeah.
so great to hang out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a lot of fun, and I thought you'd never ask. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I was just waiting for the film to get finished.
Thanks. Me too.
2 weeks away, and I can't wait to see it.
I know. I'm really excited for you to see. It's gonna be. I'm like, it's so funny. My relationship. My relationship with the movie changes on a daily basis. It's like a roller coaster. I'm so close to it that I can't be truly objective. And while people tell me that's good, and while I've done good work in the past, and there are high expectations, some mornings I wake up super excited about it, and then by the end of the day, I'm like, what the hell have I done? And then it gets reset the next day. So, so I can't wait for you to see it and tell me what you think.
Well, I think the most important thing about that is what you said about having climbed that mountain. You are now this different person, and you are this different filmmaker. You have made a feature film, and that's it.
That's
You
it.
know, we'll see what happens when it gets out there, but you are a different person, and
It's like raising children. You do your best, but at a certain point you got to kick them out the house, and they're on their own. And like I said, I've done my best with the movie. Now it's up to audiences to connect or not.
right, but you are still that new person.
Oh yeah,
Climb this mountain every day.
absolutely.
Whether you are happy about the film or you're not happy about the film, you are still that new person.
Yeah, I'm unequivocally a film director, and I'm a feature film director on a career path of making feature film after feature film, and that's, you know, I couldn't say that a year ago.
Woohoo! Thanks for joining us. Talk to you
Thank you
soon.
guys. Thank you all for joining. It's a pleasure. Thank you. Bye, Alex.
Bye.
Bye.